unit, and the men stay in that unit and don't see their families for anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how long it takes for them to get over their addiction, and they are clean and have the ability to interact with family and not get those emotional hooks back into them to fight or be down on themselves. And the major contacted us when he heard about our performance ensemble because we had really great national and regional musicians in this group. And I went and visited with him, and he really wanted to be able to have a situation where the men could just let go and celebrate, because many of them were at a point in time in their lives where the question was, now what? Okay, I'm clean and sober. What am I really doing with my life? And the major knew that music was a great tool to help in that segue. So we decided we would try to do something that would be a little bit more interactive. But as we finished talking through everything, it wasn't going to be possible to do the interaction because the only place to set up for this performance, when you have 30 feet of handbell tables and 12 musicians and 18 men, and by the way, all of their family were invited. So each man had anywhere from 2 to 10 people. We were all crammed into their dining room. Our group had only been together for 10 months, and 10 hours before our very first performance, the conductor called and said, I cannot be there. His father had died unexpectedly. And in handbell groups, you have to have a conductor to talk in between the music pieces so that the musicians can rearrange their instruments and get their mindset for the next piece of music. We went, and we had to really quickly regroup. And we really did, because at that point, what I had wanted to do that the group didn't understand was to be able to make an interactive concert. So can you teach and perform in the same arena? Well, we got our opportunity, and I was like, yes, finally. We decided that we would come and process through the group so they could hear the bells, which would give them the first introduction to the bells. We would play some pieces of music, and then we would hand the bells to the men. And you should have seen some of these men, giant and huge, petite, anywhere from 25 to 82 years old, and each man got a bell in their hands. And after 15 minutes of a one-on-one with a musician, they came together and stood at the front of the room, and they played Silent Night. And tears were streaming down their face. We stood behind them with the choir chimes and accompanied them. And so for me, that dream came true. To be able to have a man understand that he can do whatever he decides he wants to do, even in the moment of fear, and that music can help be that bridge. And that was my passion, and that started off my Christmas. We had 8 other performances, and nothing touched it like this performance, because we were bringing 2 people, which we love to do, but they didn't get a chance to experience the bells. And after that, each man went out into the audience, and the first thing he did was want to give a handbell to somebody else. So we just stopped. We let go of 3 or 4 pieces of music. It didn't matter. We just walked out into the crowd and started teaching the kids how to play handbells, and grandparents, and gave them choir chimes. And about 20 minutes later, and we were well over the time allotted for us to perform to these men, we had about half of the room together, and we were all playing music and singing. And that's just what the concert was. So my joy was knowing that you can do what you want to do, and it may take some time. I waited 4 years for that dream to come true, and it came true better than I had ever imagined. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissaeffert, and I've been singing here at the Temple for 10 years. And aside from that, I work as an office manager and veterinary technician at a small animal hospital, and I'm currently staying home and raising 2 little girls. And before coming here, I've been a singer my whole life. My mom jokes that I came home from the hospital with a microphone in my hand. Not exactly true, but it certainly did start early for me. And Christmas has always been my favorite time of year to perform. All the hymns and the music, and as a professional musician, the opportunities are endless of things that you can participate in during the holiday season. And it started very early for me. And everybody has, you know, that certain smell or that dish somebody cooks that reminds them of Christmas at their mom's house or their grandma or whatever it reminds them of. And I have those as well. But some of my fondest memories of Christmas and other times have to do with music, and they're music related. And this is the first thing that came to mind. When I was growing up, I grew up attending the Village Presbyterian Church, which is a large congregation just like here. And it was Christmas, it was the Advent season, and I was invited to sing a solo. It was my big moment. And so Sunday morning comes, and out walks 4.5-year-old Melissa to the little microphone set for a 4.5-year-old to sing at. And I'm alone in the front of the church with probably 800 or 1,000 people watching, and everyone who's listening to the radio broadcast of the service. And so it was my moment, and I was going to sing. And I sang Away in a Manger, and I let it have it. And I just sang my heart out. And I was so pleased because it was my big time. And, you know, lots of people were there who knew me, and my parents were there in the balcony. And I come to find out much, much later that my dad was crying during the Away in a Manger. And he was telling everyone around him, oh, that's my baby girl, and look at her, isn't she great? And just pride flying out of his mouth, telling everyone how great it was. And you know, finding out later that he was crying, you know, that's my dad showing his emotion in a way that I don't really remember him doing when he was talking about what I was doing. And he's always very supportive of singing, but, you know, crying about it, being so proud of what I was doing was so great to know. And I know exactly what he was feeling now. My oldest daughter's 4.5, and I just want to tell everyone everything she's doing because I'm so proud of everything she's done, and you know, the art that she makes and the books that she's starting to read on her own, and I'm sharing everything with everyone. And I understand now where his tears of pride and joy were coming from, watching me do something that I just thought was going to be so fun and I had no idea was going to be a big deal, was like the biggest deal to my dad. And I lost my dad when I was 16. And so, you know, like I said, the ability to perform during the Christmas season is quite abundant. And so whenever I get a chance to sing Away in a Manger or perform it, or even just singing it at home with my little girls, it reminds me of my dad. And it's really nice to be able to remember him by something that I love to do. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Stacy, and I have the maybe dubious honor of having joined Unity Temple on the Plaza at a cocktail party recently. I told Duke I wanted to join the church, and he said, well, let's do it right now. We each had a glass of wine in our hand, and I thought that was pretty cool. So, growing up as the youngest of 5 children, and the last of 4 girls, I really hated the words used and hand-me-down, because that was my life. My mother, on the other hand, was obsessed with finding a second and a third life for everything. So that really bugged me. I can't read my notes. So the first school day after Thanksgiving, it was like clockwork. The school bus would pull out up in front of our house to drop us off, and I would just be mortified because my mother would have hung trash from the trees. Yes. She would take tin can tops of all shapes and sizes and go to work on them with pliers and, I don't know, cutters, and she would make stars and snowflakes, and she would hang them on these huge trees that we had on either side of our house, and I was mortified. But now I'm middle-aged, and I think back on that memory, and I think they were really pretty, and they were really beautiful, and my mom was really kind of cool, and she didn't know it, but she was on the cutting edge of the environmental movement. Just when I have that thought, I honor the good in her, and I, even though I don't have a relationship with my mother currently, I'm able to forgive and to honor her and to cherish those memories from afar.
My name is David Adams. I sing professionally, I guess. That's what I do for a living. And I guess you guys probably know that by now since I just did that a second ago. What I'd really like to share with you guys, first of all, I've been a member of this church, a member since 1999, but have been participating in this church since 1993. And it's been a wonderful time. And what I'd like to share with you this morning is all sort of about family. First of all, when Duke asked if I was interested in doing this, I said yes. And then I went, wait, what? Because I realized that, coming up with a really, with a beautiful family Christmas memory, which is where my mind went with this, was impossible. I come from a mildly dysfunctional family. Actually, mildly is really being kind. Anybody else feel that experience? Okay, so I was thinking about it, and I thought, man, how am I going to do this? So I thought about calling my brother, and then I went, no, that's useless because he's more cynical than I am. So he's not going to remember one if I can't. So I talked to my mother and was regaled with wonderful stories of her childhood. Wonderful. But so no one in our whole family that I spoke with could come up with anything. So I started to think about it, and I realized I was left on this quest by myself. And I remembered it was 4 years after my mother had remarried. And my stepdad was a wonderful, wonderful man. And we had just a regular Christmas planned, nothing special. And my brother and sister-in-law who live in Pennsylvania had never met my stepfather by this point. And they weren't able to come to the wedding, and just kind of the way our family runs, we don't get together very often. And they decided to surprise us with a visit. And so it was a Christmas when we were all there together. My two older brothers, my sister, their families. And we just got to really enjoy some kind of a wild ride Christmas. Typical Christmas fodder, not all stars and fun stuff. It was arguments over politics and arguments over too much food and who made what and this is terrible and that kind of stuff. Typical Christmas family things. And the reason this Christmas ended up being so special to me, is the more I thought about it, was that it was really the last time and the only time in my memory that my entire family had been together. The next time we were all together, my second oldest brother had thought I could do this without crying, but I don't know if I can. Had committed suicide. And the next time we were all together was at this funeral. So it ended up in retrospect being a very, very special Christmas for us. And another thing I'd like to share on a slightly happier note was on December 23rd, I got to spend some time with the person that was going to be, here I am again, with me for the rest of my life. 17 years now. His name is Warren Teachout. He's sitting back there wiping his eyes right now. So, while I apologize for the welling up of emotion at this time, I wanted to share with you that every moment that I've had with my family, good, bad, indifferent, lots of indifferent, has been wonderful. And just having those moments and never knowing which one is going to be the last one is the thing that I think I've come away with in this exercise. So thank you, Duke, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Everybody was just great. Beautiful stories.